Hey, TJ. I saw that somebody else was signed in,
Okay.
but they're gone now, I guess. So,
Oh,
yeah.
here
So,
we are.
are three songs you think overkill?
No.
No. Okay. And we have been keeping the Sunday talks to like 20 to 30 minutes, and then we go into a spiritual cafe. But today I'm going to tell them we likely are not going to have cafe because we don't want to rush this.
Okay.
We take
So
as much time as we need. So,
perfect.
and then
So
if people want to afterwards stay and chat a little bit, it's
yeah,
okay. So what
it
kind of,
just depends. It depends on how long it takes them to do the water ceremony, right?
right? That's what I'm thinking. So,
So what's the order? Tell me.
well,
What?
I haven't been doing like I don't do a whole service like, reading of announcements and daily word and things like
Okay.
that. I just usually introduce you and maybe a song, maybe not. I don't always do music. Usually I just do a 30-minute thing and then we go into cafe and just talk about it.
Oh, perfect. Well,
But today
that
is different, you know. Today
yeah.
we'll probably have people that we normally don't see all year round
Yep,
because of you, for one, your popularity, and also because the burning bowl has typically been a really popular thing. And
for sure.
yeah, but we don't want to invite them to burn themselves up.
Now, do you simultaneously do live on Facebook or do you?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
So, and I'll take care of all that. And
So it's going to be a song and then you turn it over to me, right? You do a welcome or
yeah, I'm just going to do a song and then a welcome and then a real quick intro to you. I'm not going to say a lot. I'll leave that up to you, what you want said.
okay.
Mm.
And then after the talk, we'll do the song and meditation.
Okay. Yeah. I have
And
them all pulled up and I'll just share screen.
perfect.
And now Tim is joining us. Tim Ford. Tim is my sweetheart,
Oh, hi, Tim, sweetheart.
and he does a lot of the technical stuff for us. So he'll let me know when we're showing up on Facebook Live, so I can. Oh, I better stop recording.
And to know that there is one power and one presence, the ever unfolding source energy, true nature, God essence, all the different words we have. Oh, I'm so honored to be here. I was reflecting, Sheila, on when I was with your community in person, and it was during the holidays last year. And who among us would have ever been able to predict what 2020 would bring, at least in the outer realm? I don't think there's any of us, even Nostradamus probably couldn't have predicted this one. But what I do know is that regardless of circumstances, we can consciously create our life. So that's what I'm here to explore today with you, my 5 steps to conscious creation process. And I want to start by saying, I kind of promised myself some years ago when I wrote my first book and then my second book, I kind of promised myself I'd never be that person that has the 6 steps to freedom or the 4 steps to, creating your life. But here I am. I've created the 5 steps to conscious creation, and I've given it an acronym, and that acronym is MOVIE. So are you ready to consciously create a new movie for your life? The reason I love the acronym MOVIE is that for many of us, and I'll include myself in this, I used to think life was happening to me. I felt like a victim to the world. I felt like reality was what I could see or hear or touch or taste. I didn't understand that really I was projecting onto a blank screen. So the movie analogy is perfect, because if you're anything like me, you might have spent some time trying to get the world to change so that you could be happy. I love the way Byron Katie puts it. It's so simple. She says, I think she says, hundreds of years, people have been trying to change the world so that they can be happy. The issue is that's backwards. And those of us who have been in New Thought for any time recognize that what we are here to do is to explore the happiness, the beingness that is within us, and then project it into the world. And Byron Katie goes on to say that it's like we're looking at the world through our lens, but there's a piece of lint on it. And we see that piece of lint everywhere, in every relation, every work situation, and even in our spiritual community, right? We seem to see what we might call a flaw in our lens everywhere. We project it outward. So what we're here to explore in this 5-step process is how we move within and create a place where we can clear the lens so that we can start to create a new movie for our life. And in that way, we can actually change reality. So we're going to explore that now, but I want to give you the 5 steps to conscious creation. But before I say that, I want to share with you why I developed this. And truthfully, it was really in my own experience of having a difficult time manifesting. Because those of us who have been alive during this time and in New Thought, we have been exposed to what we might call the law of attraction, unity principles that thoughts held in mind create after our kind, and that we can manifest our life. This is the time of year when there is such a strong focus or emphasis on New Year's resolutions, right? We've collectively created this idea that December 31st and January 1st are significant in some way. Interestingly enough, someone made that up, right? Because it's not even in the natural rhythm of planet Earth. I could see maybe the spring equinox, right? It's the time that we move into new growth, but we've collectively decided that there's something powerful about December 31st and January 3rd and January 1st. Now, because we've collectively decided that, it's true. Because people all around, at least, people using our calendar in the world, are collectively saying, how do I change my life? Or some version of that. Let me create some New Year's resolutions. The issue for me with that is that many of us create our New Year's resolutions based on our past. We may not be aware of it, but we might be creating resolutions based on a past experience. We want something different, so we're going to create these New Year's resolutions. Many of us want to start with the intention setting process or the manifesting process or affirmations to create the life of our dreams. Maybe you've made a vision board. And that vision board is putting pictures of all the things that you want to manifest on it so that you can hold that energy and then manifest it in the world. For me, there are plenty of important steps before we move into manifesting. So that's where the 5-step process comes in. I'm going to give you the steps based on the acronym MOVIE. 1, making peace with the past. 2, overcoming core false beliefs. 3, visioning. 4, intention setting. And 5, embodying the vision. What we're going to be primarily focused on this morning is that first step, making peace with the past. Because as I said, if we are not consciously creating our life, we are unconsciously creating our life. And many of us want to do the vision board, start doing the affirmations, move into the manifesting stage without really cleaning up and clearing out our past. There was a time in my evolution, not long ago at all, that I started shifting from the word forgiveness to making peace with the past. The one thing that's interesting about writing a book, if anyone here is an author, anyone watching is an author, as soon as it's written down on the page, it's written down on the page. And I remember reading my first book and saying, I would never say it that way. Oh, wait, I did. But that was my consciousness from a few years ago. Now I have this new understanding. So forgiveness, in my experience, is what we often talk about when we think about making peace. But forgiveness, in some way, is deeply entrenched in the idea of good and bad and right and wrong. You have harmed me. You did something wrong. I'm going to find a place within me to forgive you. Or I have done something so horrible to someone that I'm going to seek forgiveness. I have worked with people, and absolutely in my own journey, there's an idea that if I can just get the person to forgive me, or if I can just find a place in my heart to forgive someone else, everything's going to be okay. We see this played out in our culture in multiple different ways. We think there was a victim to this crime, and if the perpetrator can just be punished, everyone will be happy. So we go through a long court case of many, many years, and the person, receives their penalty, but we don't feel any better. Maybe you relate to that. Maybe there's someone in your life that you look back and believe and feel and have the experience of them harming you or doing something wrong to you. And even if they say, I'm sorry, even if they seek your forgiveness, that doesn't really ultimately change the experience. It can help. I've worked with people over the years who have been holding on to an experience from their past, and the person's not even alive. And because they're holding on to the idea that they had wronged them, they're not able to move into a space of making peace. So I really frame it now as making peace with the past, because then we can ask the question, if we move beyond the idea of good and bad and right and wrong, can we make peace no matter what? Is it possible for me to make peace with the situation? One word of caution is not to move into what we call a spiritual bypass. This is something that I did. I had a lot of trauma in my early life. And I, at some point in my evolution, did the spiritual bypass of like, oh, that has no power over me anymore. So I'm going to pretend like it didn't hurt, or pretend like it didn't have an impact on me. So I started using affirmations to deny that experience and what had happened. For me, that really doesn't shift our creation process, because if I just pretend something didn't happen, the impact of that doesn't really move away. So it's an interesting paradox for me. I acknowledge and I recognize the pain of that experience, and I also recognize that there is a place within me that is unharmable. A place within me that has never been harmed by any situation. That place that we call our spiritual essence, our God nature, our Buddha nature, whatever word we use for this essential beingness. When I recognized that life happened, but it didn't happen to me, there was this huge amount of freedom that could get created. So why is this important today? And why is this important in the creation process? When we move into trying to use affirmations or vision boards, or we focus on the law of attraction, we try to change our thinking without clearing away the past, it is creating whether we realize it or not. So going back to what I said earlier, we are either consciously creating, or we're unconsciously creating. So if I haven't looked at the causes and conditions that have created my level of consciousness, then it is going to be creating my life, and I won't even be aware of it. So let's dive deeper into that, because I think it's really important. I love that unity, one of unity's principles is thoughts held in mind create after their kind. What I'm going to say about that is yes, and it's not just thought. If it were just our thinking that created reality, I think we could change that, right? We could spend some time changing the narrative. We could look at those thoughts. We could become aware of them. I think there's a deeper principle at play here. And that is what really creates is frequency or vibration. The core vibration that I'm holding about myself, which for me is deeper than thought. It includes thought, but it also includes emotions and that essential beingness. So I'll tell you how this played out in my life. Early in my life, through a series of events called being born on planet Earth, I developed core false beliefs about myself and the world. And this is the second step, overcoming core false beliefs. In 100% of the human beings I have met, we've had experiences in our life that have created not only a belief about ourselves and the world, but also a vibration. And because of our past experiences, we're walking around with physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual ideas and vibration or frequency about ourselves. And that literally creates the world in which we live. So in my case, I decided really early on that I was not lovable. So I really believed that at a very deep level. I developed that false belief when I was very, very young. And so in my teenage years and my 20s, I came into New Thought in 1988 when I was in my early 20s. And I grabbed onto these ideas of affirmations. Oh, I'm going to change my life by using affirmations. And so I was using affirmations like, I love myself exactly as I am. I fully love myself and I love who and what I am. I am the frequency of love. But there was still a place within me that did not believe that. And because I did not believe that, the frequency of that old belief was literally creating what we call reality. So on the surface, early in my life, my teenage years, I would say, I was trying desperately to get someone or something to love me so that I could feel whole. Because see, I came into this world a whole and perfect spiritual being, just like you did. In my experience, we come into the world deeply connected with our true nature. That's why a young child, or what I call the pre-programmed human, is very present. They feel their feelings deeply. If you have a toddler in your life, or you have been around a toddler, 2 years old, 3 years old, I guarantee you that they will let us know exactly how they're feeling until we teach them in some way that it's not okay to feel. It's not okay to express, right? So some of us had childhoods that seemed really beautiful and really perfect. And what I say is, unless you had Mr. Rogers as your kindergarten teacher, I doubt you heard, you are whole and perfect just the way you are. You're a perfect, beautiful child. So Don Miguel Ruiz calls it the domestication of the human. And I love that term, because when we domesticate a horse, we call it breaking them or breaking their spirit. And that's what happens to our precious little beings of light. We come into this world and we come into family systems and school systems and religious systems that teach us a fundamental lie about who we are. So what I decided was I'm not lovable. In my teenage years, I was trying desperately to please love me, please love me, please love me. In my early 20s, I came into New Thought and I discovered affirmations. But the issue for me, as I said, is I hadn't really done the deeper work of healing that core belief that I'm not lovable. But there's even something deeper happening here. And that is that underneath all of that, there was a place, as I said earlier, that was unharmable. And when I really understood that, and I spent some time reconnecting with that really young child that used to lay in the backyard, mesmerized by life, looking at a blade of grass, a butterfly, wondering how am I so lucky to be here? And so some people believe that we come into this incarnation with soul contract, right? We choose the experiences of our life for our highest evolution. And although, of course, I don't know if that's true, it makes some sense to me, right? Because I did come into situations in the world that seemed so painful at the time, so incredibly painful, and later turned out to be the one thing that has made me the most useful on planet Earth. So for me, one of those things was addiction. In my mid-teenage years to very early, till I was 20, I was very active in an addiction. And what I understand now, as painful as that was, that addiction was really trying to feel whole again, to try to understand that precious being, that true nature, that precious child that came into the world. I was trying so desperately to reconnect with myself. The issue was I was trying to do that through drugs and alcohol and people. So that brings us to moving into our water ceremony, because what I want to focus on and invite us each to explore is to, as we move into a meditation here in a few minutes, we're going to really spend some time asking that deep knowing, that inner wisdom. What are some of the core beliefs or ideas that I've developed about myself and the world that have created what I call reality? We recognize that changing the externals without really looking at what's in the unconscious. One analogy I love that I want to share with you because it's coming through. My mind loves simple analogies, and I have found that the simplest spiritual principles tend to be the most powerful. Imagine for a moment you're planting a seed. If you plant a maple seed, you're going to get a maple tree, right? If the conditions are right to grow the tree. And would it be unrealistic to plant a maple seed and then expect an elm tree? So this metaphor is actually very simple because the seeds represent the unconscious beliefs and ideas about ourselves and the world. In my case, one of the seeds was I'm not lovable. So I grew this I'm not lovable tree. And then my strategy for that, as I said, was to try to get people to please love me. And that was about trimming those branches, decorating the tree. We might even cut the tree down. But if we haven't looked at the core ideas, the core beliefs, if we haven't made peace with our past, we're going to keep growing the same tree over and over again. So have you ever asked yourself, how is it that I'm in the same relationship over and over and over again? How is it that I keep choosing the same types of work situations over and over and over again? If you're anything like me, you might have first thought that it was happening to you. And then there was a point in your evolution where you realized, oh, I'm attracting it. But what we're inviting in this conscious creation process is to go a little deeper. And that is, oh, I've been choosing this. I've been choosing it because this relationship confirms the core false belief. So I kept finding myself in relationships that proved to me that it was true that I was unlovable. So as we move into the water ceremony and into the meditation, what I'm going to invite you to be with is, what from 2020 are you ready to make peace with? Are you ready to release? What core false belief have maybe you developed this year that you're ready to release? But I really want to invite us to go a little deeper today, because we know that people all over the world this year are going to be joyously releasing 2020. So many people are. What if 2020 is the greatest gift, right? What if it was exactly what the world has needed? That's not to diminish or downplay the pain that some people have experienced. You see, I used to think that it was either this or that. And now I recognize, as I said, some of the most painful experiences have been the most useful for me after I have made peace and overcome. So we're going to look back. We're going to go into a meditation here in a moment. And we're going to look at what are the situations in my past that maybe I haven't completely released, or what are the core false beliefs I developed maybe very, very early. How many times have we heard someone say, I decided when I was 4 years old or 6 years old? So what we're going to do is Sheila's going to play a song here in a moment. We're going to be with the song, and then I'm going to guide us through a meditation that simply invites us to ask that true nature, that deep wellspring of wisdom. What is it today that I'm ready to write on this paper and symbolically release? So with that, I just want to say thank you. I'm so incredibly grateful that we're here together and that we're in this process of making peace with the past and overcoming those core false beliefs that have kept us in a belief that we're stuck or limited in some way. Peace and blessings. I'm really, really grateful, and I'm excited about our water ceremony. So turning it back to Sheila.
Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. You have all you need, it's all inside of you. Just close your eyes and breathe and know that you are safe. Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. No need to make a plan, your heart will be your compass. Lift your sails in faith and trust that you will arrive. Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Let go of the shore and let the water carry you. Let go of the shore, floating to the mist. Let go of the shore, floating to the mist, floating to the mist, floating to the mist, floating mystery. Let go, float, float, let go, float, let go, float.
With that, I invite you to move within, and if you haven't already, gently closing your eyes. And we start by taking a nice deep conscious breath together. And on the exhale, simply giving ourselves permission to arrive fully into this time and space, allowing ourselves to release any expectation and simply rest in that deepest truth of who and what we are, opening up to this moment and opening up to the question, what is it that I am ready to release today? What is that core belief, that core idea, that situation that I'm ready to make peace with, ready to overcome, clearing the way for conscious creation, tapping into our true nature. So as we move into a few minutes of silence together, the invitation is to simply open up to the infinite possibilities, tapping into that deep wellspring of wisdom. We open up to hearing that inner voice, knowing that exactly what emerges is what we are intending to release, to let go, to overcome. So we simply now open up, become receptive as we take about 3 minutes in the silence. And during the silence, you can, if you feel called to write down what emerges, that's perfect. Or after the time in silence, we'll give you a few moments, a few minutes to write down what emerged, knowing that however it shows up is exactly perfect right here, right now. Taking a deep breath, moving into our 3 minutes of silence now. And then with great gratitude, we conclude this time of meditation. And if you haven't already written what came through, this is the time for you to take a few moments to do that. And then we slowly begin to bring our awareness back into this time and space, gently opening our eyes.